So welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. I was asked to give you an overview of what has happened recently in CoreMedia DXP and what is supposed to happen or will happen on the final stretch that we are currently on for V13, which is always kind of hard because a lot of stuff is happening, but I hope I picked a few highlights that might interest you as well. So a quick overview of what I'm going to show you. The road towards CoreMedia DXP V13, which is coming at the end of the year. And then, of course, Kio, our agentic AI, and more importantly, what's in it for you and how you can use it, how you can leverage it. Finally, a bit of an outlook, closing the loop, which is what we're currently working on, and some of that is going to be available quite soon. Content Cloud and Engagement Cloud are going to converge even more. So 25.12, so the release that's coming up in December, will be our V13. So we're pretty close. To us, it feels like we're on the home stretch already, even though it's almost 6 months out, but 25.12 will be V13. Maybe a little look back. So starting with V12, we changed our release strategy a little bit, or actually quite significantly. This is what we used to have, right? So we had a pretty steady cadence of releases coming out 4 times a year. So you can see that here in 10 and 11 also a steady kind of pace of releases. But the challenge that we are facing is if you were a customer, you had to catch up, right? So you had to keep your eyes on the ball and do all of the upgrades. And you really only, if you were not interested in that, if you were more interested with stability than with getting every new feature that we happen to release, your only option was to wait until almost the end of a major release lifecycle. So in this case, it was 23.10. And that means the size of the box indicates the lifetime over which an AMP patch version are released. So the maximum regular support range without you having to do an AEP upgrade in order to stay up to date was 14 months because you had to wait until the end, and then we had another year of regular support cycle, and that was problematic for some of our customers. Not all. We have a track record of, or we have customers who have a track record of like keeping a very, very good job of staying relatively recent, but that kind of annoyed us, and we wanted to change it. And we did. With 12 and later, we kind of changed to that kind of cadence. So you now have the option of picking an LTS release at the beginning of a major release lifecycle rather than at the end. So that means when the major release comes out, an LTS will be available. So if you are one of those customers who are more interested in stability, and also be able to stay secure and compliant, you can pick that. And then we will provide constant updates indicated here with a version after the first dot. That indicates a major AMP, as we call it. But that is only the minimum set of things that you need in order to stay secure and compliant. And we know that security and compliance are really getting much, much more important these days. So if you're interested in stability, and if you're interested in security, which you should be, obviously, then that's your track. So what this means for customers is you basically have the option to pick your track. So there is an LTS option, and other than in the previous major releases, it is available right from the beginning of a major release lifecycle. So essentially, you can choose between latest features, which is the AEP track. So if you want to stay on, keep your eyes on the ball and always get the newest stuff that we release, that's your track, the AEP track. If you prefer to be calm and quiet, but still stay secure and up to date, especially with the third-party upgrades, such as Spring Boot, then the LTS track is your track. And the LTS track will receive breaking changes only when absolutely required, which is like, for example, a critical security bug happens in one of our third-party libraries, such as Spring or elsewhere. So we try to avoid that. We try to keep the upgrade effort to an absolute minimum. And we will also release the so-called patch releases, which are basically drop-in replacements, right? So the upgrade effort is basically just changing a version number, hopefully. and we only do breaking changes if we absolutely have to. As a customer or as a partner, you can always change from the LTS track to the AAP track, even within a major release lifecycle, not the other way around though. So if you pick the LTS, it's a safe bet. You can always choose to leave it, but then unfortunately there's no way back. So this is really a good way to stay compliant and secure, which is increasingly important these days. So the LTS track receives regular updates for third-party dependencies, so Spring, Java, TypeScript as required. The patch updates, as I said before, are drop-in replacements with no breaking changes whatsoever. And the AMP updates keep you compliant and secure and with really minimal upgrade costs. And you also have a 6-month time window to do the AMP upgrades. So we think that's a fair kind of trade-off. It keeps the effort from the customer side to a minimum, but it allows you to stay compliant and secure. Okay, so that's number one. Number two that has already happened is that MongoDB is now an optional component for everything except Elastic Core and Elastic Social. So starting with 24.12, which was the release late last year, you can essentially opt out of using MongoDB for everything but Elastic Core and Social. So for all editorial services. So everything that went into the MongoDB will now go to a relational database that you already have anyway. And this is in fact starting with 24.12.0.0. This is the recommended deployment option. So you don't need a Mongo if you don't want it. We know from feedback from customers that MongoDB was, for some it's not a problem, for some it is, because it's kind of an exotic component in the otherwise fairly standard zoo of things that we require. So you have the option of now basically starting a new installation without using MongoDB at all. If you have an existing installation, so if you already have data in MongoDB, there is no migration tooling available yet that will be provided. So that allows you to also migrate an existing customer to an installation that doesn't require MongoDB. That's still to come. And the only thing where you really need MongoDB still, it's kind of deprecated, but it's Elastic Core and Elastic Social. We know that some customers still use it. So for those, we will still support that for a while at least. But you still need MongoDB for that. But for everything else, you can get rid of it. And another thing that we finally getting rid of, one of my favorites, is we're getting rid of Corba. Yes, it's happening, finally. Well, thank you. Credit goes to the engineering team that has to really deal with that. And trust me, it's not an easy task. So we're already on our way. So stuff is already happening in the releases that we put out. You hopefully didn't notice it because we really carefully trying to slice it out, just very, very carefully. But our goal is to deprecate Corba in favor of gRPC for version 13. So we're probably not going to be able to rip it out completely by v13, but the default option of having our components communicate with each other is going to be gRPC. And we're already on track of doing that, and we're making good progress. So another kind of sub-task or sub-plan of that is we're planning to offer an optional kind of hybrid mode for 2506 and later, which is coming quite soon, in June, hopefully, where gRPC already works for read-only operations. So in theory, you should also already be able with 2506 and later to have your replicators who only need to read, or not who, that only have to read from the master live server in gRPC mode. But starting with v13, gRPC is hopefully going to be the default deployment option, and you can finally get rid of Corba. We expect this to be almost, I'm saying almost invisible from a customer and partner angle, so we don't expect any major breakage as a result of that change. But you might have to tweak your deployments a little bit. So for example, cap client properties is probably going to be just a standard Spring application property thing, but it should be fairly minimal and it should just work. So that's our goal anyway. So with that out of the way, we can talk about the fun stuff. So this is actually where I was going to change my wardrobe, but I'm kind of scared to rip out the cable, but Kio Copilot. Kio Copilot is generally available since April 23rd, 2025, so a couple weeks ago. And so just out of curiosity, who of you have heard of Kio Copilot? Almost everyone. Who of you has ever asked Kio Copilot a prompt? Oh, about half, that's good. Who of you have written a playbook for Kio Copilot? Still a few people. Yeah, but so that means that some of you have already heard what I'm going to say, but not everyone. That's good. So what was our vision when we developed Kio Copilot? Chat with your content. That was kind of our overarching design goal. So we didn't want Kio to feel like a robot, right? So, and we didn't want it to feel like Clippy for those older ones of you who still remember what that is. Like, you know, you obviously want to write a letter. No, I don't. Go away. So it should feel like your assistant that's able to like have an intelligent conversation about your content repository. And this is what we envision it to be able to do. So Kio is supposed to know your content and the metadata more, perhaps even more importantly, like your content. So Kio can find, create, modify, rephrase content, and so on and so forth. But it also has an understanding of what is in the content. It just doesn't only know the text, it also knows what the text means, and also the rich media, especially images. So you can also ask Kio, what do you see in this image? Can you write a caption for me so that I don't have to? And Kio will do that for you. Kio is supposed to know, and this is kind of closing the gap to the engagement cloud side of things. So Kio should also know about how users engage with their digital channels. So you should also be able to ask Kio something, how well does this content perform? Tell me what I can do to improve it. And most importantly, perhaps is that Kio is supposed to take complexity away from your day-to-day tasks. So you've all known CoreMedia, and you know if you set up like a very complex workflow, it can require a lot of clicks and tricks. Yeah, I was going to say clicks, but this can be fairly complex and very tedious to like navigate through. But Kio knows about it if you tell it about how things work, and then it can take that complexity away from you for your day-to-day tasks. Bunch of things that we added just recently as a result from our early usability tests that we did. And by the way, thank you to the IBM iX crowd for making that possible. Thank you very much. That was very helpful. So the feedback was basically, so people were quite happy with the quality of what Kio did. And they really liked working with it. Like on a personal level, they really enjoyed it. It was actually quite cute. So one of the users told us, it was so nice to work with Kio because you know my colleagues are always grumpy and I'm kind of scared to ask a question, but I never had that feeling with Kio. It was like so polite. I would have liked to wrap it up and take it home. So that's not going to happen anytime soon, who knows, but not yet. So, but as a result of that, we kind of also heard that you know what Kio does is quite good. The quality of it is good, and it does sensible things. But, gee, I wish I had a good overview of what it actually did while I was chatting with it. So users were kind of feeling like they lost an amount of control over what they did. So, because what might happen is if you tell Kio, hey, I don't like the text, can you like rephrase it a little bit to make it more sleek? It might actually choose to also to do that, but then also tweak the teaser that is linking to that content. Which is sensible, but that teaser might not even be open. So you don't know what happened under the hood. Now you do, we added that. I'll show you that in a little bit. Important thing, there was a design goal early on. So Kio can talk to almost any large language model. Almost, so the marketing statement is any, but it's, well, almost any, the relevant ones, I would like to say. That was because we knew from talking to our customers and partners early on that for a lot of our customers, for security and compliance reasons, just using plain OpenAI or GPT is not acceptable for compliance reasons, for privacy reasons, for whatever reasons. But we also know that a lot of our customers already have some kind of LLM setup going. So for example, they might have Azure OpenAI, which is a like kind of walled garden private installation of GPT and Friends that they are already using for other stuff in their organization. So we wanted to be able to say, hey, if you already have something going, we can just plug it in and we can just use what you already have. So we know it works really well with OpenAI, almost any model of OpenAI, starting with GPT-4 and later. We know it works really, really well with Anthropic. So Anthropic Claude 3.7 is actually, I was really personally blown away how smart it is. It's also a little bit slower than GPT, but that's kind of a rat race, so it's going to catch up pretty soon, I'm sure. So anyway, the message here is if you have something going, which is an LLM, a modern LLM, also about like Mistral or maybe Llama or something, it should be possible to make it work. So if you have such a case, then please talk to us. We know it works with OpenAI. We know it works with AWS Bedrock and all the models you can get there, almost. And also with Azure OpenAI. But if you have something more exotic, should be possible to get it going. So in that case, just talk to us and we'll figure something out. Another new capability, Kio gives you details on what it has changed also as a result from what we learned from our usability tests. So you can now get a nice and convenient list of things that Kio has actually touched, not things, content items that Kio has actually touched during the course of your conversation with it. And then you can like very conveniently just click a button and get to the diff view. I'll show that in a second actually. And also now Kio has an idea of what you might want to do next. So it gives you a list of suggestions, configurable. You can also switch it off if you don't like that. But it tries to infer, okay, so now the user did this. This is what they might want to do next. And then you can just click that, and then Kio will do it for you. So mini FAQ for you. Can it use my AI? The answer to that is yeah, probably, like I just said. So we know Kio works really well with OpenAI and Friends. We can and will add support for more on request as required. If you have a specific customer request with an exotic or maybe not even that exotic setup, just talk to us and ask us. I'm pretty sure we can figure something out. How can you start using it? Well, you basically just need a 2406.1 or a newer installation. It is generally available. You can download it today and play around with it if you want. Please do. There's also documentation that gives you hints on how you write a good playbook, how you prompt it, what Kio can do, which is always hard to say what it can do, but it can do a lot of useful things, I promise. But also on how you install it. It's very simple. It's essentially a Docker image and a Studio Client plugin, and you're good to go. Is it available both for self-managed and service customers? Yes. Simple answer. Both. And when can I try it? Well, today, if you want. Documentation, CoreMedia.com has all the details, so you can give it a whirl when you want, if you want. I hope you will. I hope I'll show you something that will make you want to try it. So there you go. So there you have it. Just one example use case that I picked, which is a classic one that we get asked a lot by our customers. So I have my brand guidelines concept, which might be a one-page document, or in some case, it might be longer than that, way longer actually. So let's, for the sake of the argument, assume that this is a hypothetical. Can you read this? Yeah, kind of. But the point is really, you have a document that explains to Kio your brand guidelines. So it says, this is how my content should sound. This is do's and don'ts, so please don't use these terms, use those instead. Don't ever talk about this, all of that. And you can teach that to Kio. It can help you make your content sound like it has read that, so it has understood that. So this is a small screencast. So now we have our classic Chef Corp content, and I've also written a playbook to explain the required tonality for it. Now all I have to do is here, make sure that this adheres to my brand guidelines. So now the playbook picking magic kicks in, and it says certainly Adam, which is me in that case. I'll examine the content, so it always explains what it's trying to do for you, and it's now starting to modify the content, and it also explains to you what it actually did. So these are the changes that I made. And now this is for the new feature. Then it also gives you a very convenient list of everything that it touched during that conversation. And now you can just go to the diff view and see what has actually changed. In that case, it was quite a lot. So apparently my content was not all that good initially. But it might only choose to change a few words. It depends on how well your content performs. The point of it is you can get it to do exactly that. So what else can Kio do? Is that all? And especially for you interesting, can it do my customer's favorite use case? And the answer to that is classical engineering answer. So say it for me. It depends. Thank you very much. So it depends, but probably yes. And the point of that is you can teach, and you should, and you will have to teach Kio, not tricks, but your customers' custom workflows by writing a playbook, or many if you want. Probably gonna be a couple, so many, as many as you want. What's a playbook? Well, this is a playbook. It is just no code. It is a simple natural language description of what you want Kio to do. So structure of it is pretty simple. And as you can see here, it can be in content itself. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So it just has a name that is essentially just there for your information. And it has a description. The description is actually giving Kio a hint about when to pick that playbook. So you might want to put in something like, use this when the user asks to add related content to a content item. Typical phrases that the user might use are add related content, add related, or similar. So the more specific you are in your description, the easier it will be for Kio to then pick that playbook if that is what the user intends to do. That's it, really, and then you have steps, which in this case is fairly simple, but custom. So you say, never suggest adding content already linked in the related property. Yeah, well, that's pretty obvious, but just to make sure that Kio doesn't do anything unexpected. But now, please tell the user that you will use the assigned tags. So that is a custom thing. So what's related content? In this particular case, we are saying related content has the same taxonomy tags as the content I'm currently working with. That might be what you want. It might be something else. If it's something else, just tell Kio, and it will figure it out. And now then iterate through a list of subject tags and find content with the same tag, and then stop searching if you found 3. So that's kind of giving it an instruction of what to do, and then link it and print the results. So how far can you take this? How far can you, how complex can a playbook be? The kind of rule of thumb is pretty complex. So we have Ollie and his team have written vastly complex playbooks, 2 pages. They work. They're a bit, you have to get a hang of it, of how to write it, but it works, and it does surprisingly accurate things, is our learning from the early days, so to speak. So the rule of thumb is this: if you can explain it to Kio like you would explain it perhaps to a new colleague or to a child, and if Kio won't take longer than a couple of minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, in order to get the job done, it will probably work. And the message that I really want to get across today is, don't be shy, try it out. A lot of this is trial and error. This is in the nature of things. LLMs work in a probabilistic way. By design, they need to do like this. So I know as engineers, everyone is kind of used to write an algorithm, and once it works, it works. But with LLMs and with Kio, a lot of this is really trial and error. But the fun part of it is writing playbooks is actually quite fun once you get a hang of it. So please don't be shy. Try it out, have fun, and share your results with us. Actually, this isn't aligned with marketing, but I'm going to do it anyway. So send us your cool playbooks, and if you send a really cool playbook, you will get one of these shirts. We're currently out, but we will print more. Thanks. Okay, next thing. What we're currently working on is titled or themed internally is closing the feedback loop. So let's take a step back and think about what that means. So you've seen that slide, I think, in Martin's slides already. So this is the CoreMedia DXP, the experience platform. It consists of basically 2 sub-products, the Content Cloud and the Engagement Cloud. So what are these things doing? So Content Cloud is, of course, you all know it, smart content management and inspiring commerce. And Engagement Cloud, also, many of you know it, not as extensively as Content Cloud, obviously, because it's a fairly recent addition to the DXP. What it offers is personalized experience, journeys, especially personalization and optimization, and then the real-time conversations via the Cloud Contact Center. So what we're trying to do now, and what we're actively working on right now, is to bring that cluster of functionality closer to the Content Cloud. And one of the first things that we're planning to do and are already working on is to be able to visualize the impact of your content, powered by data that we already have in Engagement Cloud, but visualize it in the content where it belongs, so that you're able to see how much did this piece of content as part of my user journey contribute to my business goals. So like really hard KPIs that tell you how well does your content perform in the content itself, and perhaps even, this is an early design study, but maybe even in the preview, right? So this perhaps, like, for example, this tells you that this particular teaser that I'm currently looking at has a click-through rate of 2.5%. And by the way, it has improved as a result of what you did, which is what this green thing is supposed to say. It improved by 3.5 percentage points. So that's cool. Except we know from talking to our customers and partners is that even if you have all these data available, it's probably not always going to tell you what to do. So the challenge with that, and with personalization in general, I would say, is the complexity of the data and all of the tools that you have at your fingertips can be pretty overwhelming. Not every content author is a data scientist and understands all this. Knowing the performance of your content is one thing, but knowing what to do about it is actually another. So, like really taking the insights that you gain from all of these data and coming up with a plan on what to do about what you've learned is really hard. So setting up good personalization rules is hard. That really make a difference, even when you know what you're doing, and even if when you are a data scientist. It can be still pretty overwhelming. But we've got this guy, should I say guy? We got this thing, that doesn't sound right either. We've got Kio, and Kio says, well, I think I can help here. And just to give you an idea of what we're envisioning there is, so this is not in the product yet, obviously, it's an early design study, and going to see it again this afternoon, but I was going to show it to you anyway. So let's try if we can get this to go. So what you can do now is you can say, what can you tell me about my user's behavior? And do some explorative analysis and all of that. And tell me what you see. And this is going to take a while, I'm going to be honest, so this is not fake. But in order for the more technical audience today, what it's starting to do now under the hood is it starts all kinds of queries against the Engagement Cloud data. So this is not actually fake, this is real data from a real Engagement Cloud customer. And if you take a very close look, just to prove that actually something is now happening under the hood, you can say if you look really closely, it's now starting all kinds of SQL queries against the data. So the idea here is that you let really Kio, you don't have to tell Kio all that much about how your data is being structured. It can find that out on its own. And one of the learnings that we had is, especially with the newer models from Anthropic, it is quite amazing of how smart it is to figure out what the data is. So I didn't, like in the playbook, explain anything to Kio in that case. I really just said, here's a bunch of data, arbitrary data that we have in Engagement Cloud. Just figure it out. And it did, right? So now it comes up with this. It tells you website traffic overview, total events, device and platform insights. 85% of your visitors are using a mobile. It has already calculated the conversion funnel. How many people did add something to their cart? How many of those actually ended up purchasing something? But what is even cooler is, now, since it works with content and knows how to work with content, it is also able to give you optimization suggestions. These are fairly generic here, but we can use a playbook to make them more actionable for Kio. So now, since Kio knows to work with content, the idea is, hey, I can tell it, I like suggestion number 2, just do this, and it will pick a playbook that explains to it what it can do, what suggestion number 2 means, and then just do the right thing for you. So that's what we envision when we say closing the feedback loop. That's all I have for today. I hope I've given a good appetizer, because there's more to come in Roy's presentation this afternoon. That's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching. I think I'm doing pretty good on time. That's me, and thank you.